120. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mortgage Mike of Texas. We're going to get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
Welcome back. 120. We did not have a show last week, so if you were waiting, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Do a lot of podcasts do that? Like, I listen to very few. I look so dark today. I'm in the shadows.
You've been on the beach.
Oh, exactly. Do a lot of I don't know. Like, a lot of podcasts don't do any announcements, and like 5 episodes will just pop up. And
Sometimes
people
it'll
are
be like,
really-
we've been gone for a few weeks,
Yeah.
like welcome back type deal.
Were they wearing the same shirt on all 5 of them?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I wear the same shirt on every single one.
You
That's
do
true.
that.
It's timeless.
So, all right, episode 120. This is your first time joining us here on the only real estate podcast worth listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this out, tag some agents in it, because we have one of our favorite people in here. We have Michael DeBacker, Mortgage Mike of Texas. So you may have heard he is one of the sponsors of the show. So you can go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. He is a Texas loan officer, maybe getting his Colorado license.
Branching out a little bit,
Maybe,
possibly.
maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe likes to dabble in the 420 licensing.
We do work in a crazy industry. Putting that out there.
So look, if you're needing a good loan officer here in Texas and you want to see what Michael and his team can do, go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com, as well as our other sponsor, Justin Nelson with Sphere Rocket VA. Look, if you're needing the virtual assistants, but you're needing some leverage in your business, maybe you're looking to hire some people, but you don't think you can afford a full-time in-person staff, go check out Justin Nelson with SphereRocketVA.com and learn how virtual assistants, on average $3 to $4 or $5 an hour, can really help your business out. I know that we have our annual community pumpkin patch event coming up in October, and Avi is creating the entire imaging. She's getting all of the marketing ready to send out, and so that was all done with our virtual assistant. So go take a look at that, and then. The ghost of Kelderman is here in Spears.
No, we miss him so much. He's not gone. He's just in Vermont.
Oh,
That looks way better. Thank
Yeah.
you for doing that.
yeah.
He's in Vermont, finding himself.
Yes. Project U.
Yes.
Yes. So, what are we going to talk about today, Brian?
Well, we were just in a conversation about not about your neighbor. You were having a conversation with your neighbor.
Well, you had brought up, you were like, hey, guys, what are we going to talk about with Mortgage Mike here today?
I definitely didn't say that while the intro was playing.
Yeah. And we started talking about, what's going on in China, the China collapse of Evergreen, which is the big developer there.
Evergrande.
Evergrande.
Is it Evergrande? I have such a desire to call it Evergrande because that's how it's spelled. That doesn't seem phonetically.
How do you think they pronounce it?
I think they pronounce it in Chinese, so I don't know.
Is it the Rio Grande or the Rio Grande?
It's that's a level deeper than I was even expecting to go today.
That
Only
he
Mortgage
messes
Mike.
things up.
Only Mortgage Mike would bring that up.
Do people in Mexico call it the Rio Grande? They do, don't they?
Yes.
Lady,
I
will
don't
you
think they call-
comment or text me and tell me whether they? I don't know how you would text, whether or not, because you would just be saying Rio Grande.
Well, she could do voice text.
She could do voice text. Will you voice text me or comment and ask if it is comment 1 for Rio Grande, comment 2 for Rio Grande?
Yes.
That is such an interesting. Anyway,
Well, before
So
we get
Evergrande.
before we get deeper into
Okay.
these amazing topics that we're going to chat about today, is there some sort of like initiation I'm supposed to be going through? Is there like a
There should be a fireball shot.
Does it,
but
I was just did the rest of the agents on the team not put you in a fight club for? Did they not jump you in when you got here?
No. I figured there was going to be some sort of I don't know, hazing. You can't shave my head; that's already
You can't
done.
shave
But
my head. You said you were bringing Fireball. I thought you were going to initiate us like you
Okay.
do on the golf course.
Yeah,
I will
But
remember that next time.
Yeah, it is Rio Grande, bro.
It is Rio Grande. So see, this is Chinese Evergrande.
So Evergrande, and we were talking about just the collapse, right? So we were talking about the collapse of that. That's one of the biggest developers in China,
Yeah.
and how that ripple effect. China is going to control this, by the way, right? So as the way the Chinese government does. And I was talking to my neighbor who is amazing at stock trading options and all that other stuff that goes well above my pay grade.
Mhm.
And he was talking about how they're going to break up these big developers and make them, pass them to distribute the wealth, because what's happened there in China, and something that we could be seeing in the future here in the US is that properties have gotten so expensive there that only the uber wealthy can afford.
Sure.
They can't even rent them out. And
Yeah.
so now you've got entire cities just sitting vacant, right? And so they're trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And how we got on this conversation this morning was, something that Brian and I have talked about is in the US, the problem that we have in America is that we're not seeing the rental economy starting to happen.
Yeah.
And the rental economy is where these large hedge funds and corporations are buying up these huge pools of single family houses and real estate, and then no longer putting it back on the market and putting them up for rent. And what that's going to do is that's going to limit the opportunity for like our children and our children's children to be able to go buy real estate, because there's less inventory available for sale.
Yep.
And the inventory that comes up is going to be so expensive that they wouldn't be able to afford it probably anyway. And they're going to be renters, which then has a negative effect on their ability to build wealth, because the majority of Americans build their wealth through real estate.
Yep.
Right. And so it's just, I told him today that when you kind of put it all that way, it sounds like we're in trouble.
It's not, yeah, I mean, I've
Our youth is in trouble. We're okay.
yeah.
Yes,
Look,
you know
my
Yeah.
dogs are in trouble,
That's right.
but
Who cares about our children? I mean, just kids.
it's such an that's a super interesting topic to me, because it not to get like crazy deep on it, it does beg the question. We can only predict the future sort of with the through the guise or the lens of like what we consider to be valuable and important now. If real estate was just off the table as a wealth building asset, like let's take us to the extreme. Let's just say institutions own all of the real estate in the next 50 years, right? Like, what would be the next cornerstone asset for family wealth building? Like, what
Bitcoin.
else would be? It would I'm like, it's not the worst. Let's just say you had no more real estate to build wealth, but we did have a decentralized digital currency.
have
Would
you
that
had-
be a different, like, everybody be like, you gotta, the same way we're like,
Well, there is. Hold that thought real quick, because what I talked about with my neighbor, and he has studied a lot of this. So, and something that that we're seeing is that with artificial intelligence and robot automation, everything going on, is that's growing so quickly that eventually we are going to eliminate a lot of job sectors that will never come back. And
Sure.
so like during the recession and during new technology or, new industries that come out that may eliminate some other jobs in other industries, the thought process was, well, the ripple effect is that even though that sector may have lost jobs, it's actually creating more jobs down the line.
Yep.
Well, automation and artificial intelligence and technology is actually eliminating they're eliminating that to the point where we're actually not replacing the jobs.
So, man, it's such an interesting topic. Y'all are starting this conversation, by the way. I want it to be on record. Y'all started a conversation about robots and not me. So glad Kelderman is not here to witness this. But that's such a great point. And imagine a world in which AI is so advanced that it can replace, let's just throw a number out and just work off that, say 50% of the skilled labor or even unskilled labor in America, right? And so those jobs go away. And then imagine also a future where AI and just on a broad term, the advancement of technology becomes so great that we actually don't even need things like consumer spending anymore, because most of where our money goes is outside of our home, it is consumer spending. So in the future where we didn't need to eat out at nice restaurants because we just got our nutrients in some way, we didn't live in a totally tangible world. We lived in a hybrid world where a lot of our sensations were digitized through AI, where we could be on a mountaintop in Telluride without even being there. Like, would we even need as much money? Would we need jobs? Only the elite entrepreneurs need jobs because they could build more wealth that way.
So they build more. So there will be the ultra wealthy, and then there'll be the rest.
And what would the rest even look like? Would it even be that bad? Is there an event horizon where like the default for human society is the ability to have all of your emotional, financial, and physical needs taken care of by essentially a combination of physical and artificial, or physical assets and artificial intelligence? And just like, even, let's just say, even if you lived in a tiny little box, if you want to be extreme, you don't even think you live there because you have, through the advancement of technology, you have essentially a hybrid brain that has some of your own intelligence and some artificial intelligence, and you think you live in like a nice ass 3-bedroom house. It's so funny to like think about and laugh about, but I'm telling
really,
you,
you're homeless on the street.
you don't have to be on like, because you could physically die that way. I'm just saying, like, you would have like,
So are you?
what if you built,
Are you basically?
the government builds tens of millions of tiny barrack units where
Are you
people
basically
live.
just saying the Matrix?
Yes.
Exactly. I was sitting here thinking, okay, it's a
Long
combination
story
of the
short,
Matrix
yes.
and Demolition Man. If you
Yes.
haven't seen Demolition Man,
is
you,
dope.
you got to go see
Yeah.
it. But
So
anyway.
the Matrix and Demolition, actually, both of those are actually pretty good.
They're very
I
good
just
movies.
binge watch all 3 Matrixes.
You
Is
getting
it
ready for the
Matrix,
new one?
Yes, because I thought it was.
Matrixes, I don't know. Is
it Matrixes or Matrix Eyes?
I think it's Matrix.
Matrices.
Matrixes.
Matrices, yeah.
Because I never really watched them, and you know what? Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
You
Pretty
never
good.
watched them knowing that they were based on a future true story.
Absolutely.
the
That we
difference.
are prophesizing
currently
right
in the
now.
middle of writing.
Yeah,
this podcast.
Right. But so let me ask you, Michael, actually, have you had anybody try to use their income or anything in their bank statements with Bitcoin?
Not often. If you didn't hit that early rise of Bitcoin, most people don't have the tens of thousands of dollars that some were able to generate, but some have. We've definitely had the questions, but it's treated just like stocks.
So is it? So if I'm sitting on 3 Bitcoin, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Would
You
that
bought
count?
it at the height though, so it doesn't really
Of
matter.
course, I'm
Yeah.
actually negative in the hole.
Yeah.
So do you ask me what I bought in that, or do I just say have 3 coins and you're like, oh, you got 155,000 or whatever it is today?
You show me your statement. I see what you have in terms of the value of it. It's not about 3 Bitcoin. It's just total value of the account. You sell off whatever asset you need. Now you have the cash in your account.
But do I have to sell it, or can you take that as a valuation as a total net worth?
Not actually receiving it, and we cannot receive
Correct.
Bitcoin, nor do we look at it as anything
Yeah.
more. If you're not selling it, it's only reserves at that point.
You just look at it like
Not
an equity.
actual. Yeah, it's just an IRA, 401k. It's any of those.
How
same
long
accounts,
do you
basically.
think until we will be able to pay? Was it San Francisco? Look this up.
Some
Home in
house
the U.S. already
sold
got
for-
sold, and you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
There's a house, I believe, is in Silicon Valley that already got sold in Bitcoin. Now, I think the way that they did it was
I
like
think it was Doge.
was it?
Was it?
I think
No.
it was.
Bullshit.
No, I'm dead serious. I think it was.
No, you're kidding.
I could be dead. I could be wrong.
If there was a home sold for Dogecoin, I'm leaving this podcast
I think
forever.
you're right.
Oh no! Here's the one thing you need to buy a house with Bitcoin. Meet the software engineer who used crypto to buy his 650. Yeah, this is probably the one. Wow, look at that dog.
Last time you've posed with your dog,
Oh, we got in trouble
yeah.
in DC, not San
Yeah.
Francisco. So how did they close the deal? Did they do some sort of like he bought it for $1 in
Well,
cash, and then then he had a side agreement that he had to transfer 650 in Bitcoin?
But that's probably how it is, right? So it's just
Yeah.
a transfer to be like, all right, if I offered you 650,000 for your home, but I'm going to transfer my stock,
Right.
you want to hold the stock that I have. Let's say I have
Yeah.
Tesla stock or Apple stock, $650,000 worth of shares into your account.
Yeah,
And so now the question that I've always had, because I've asked Heather this, is like, who monitors that? Like,
Yeah.
how do we sign the paperwork, and then how do you make sure that
How
are you
it-
pushing the button
like
at
the
the
title
same time?
company, are they doing?
Because title
Yeah.
companies don't regulate
It
or
would-
hold the money
No,
on us.
it would have to be an attorney state, which I think in DC, Washington DC, you probably have attorneys. I was just wondering more about like things like appraisals and stuff like that. Man is selling his home for $135,000 in Dogecoins. I'm gonna tell you right now, you would not see that with $1 million home. You would see a better fucking currency being used. This is just silly.
No,
I don't
Doge-
mean to shit on this guy's dream. I'm just saying, when it comes to homes, that's on the lower end, and that's a
So you're
person
saying-
that is
Are
doing
you
a bit.
saying Dogecoin is the lower end? Is that be like the
I would like to think
the
that
modular
the
home?
people have spoken on that. What currency is what more well respected?
So that article I just showed you, that was actually from 2014. Right below it
he's a genius.
is from August of this year, and they did it at 399,000.
So he didn't sell.
Oh, he didn't sell it.
Different guy, I'm assuming.
Oh.
Oh,
Here's
5
the thing.
7 years apart.
If
Wonder-
he sold
like,
it,
who
bro,
the-
if
who
he
the hell
sold
was
it,
doing
in
135 back
2014
then.
Dogecoin,
I
yeah.
didn't know it was around in.
why wouldn't he
2014.
just sell his house for 135 anyway,
And
and
then
then
just
just go
buy-
buy Dogecoin?
That was his mistake.
Yeah.
It's because he wanted somebody else to put their skin in the game.
Yep.
And not
I just want somebody to give me that insider tip to buy X altcoin and get in when it's 0.0001 and I can buy 2 million shares for $50.
Well, the minute that I start looking like Nate Fisher commented on here, and Nate says Dogecoin, right? And the minute that I hear that Nate and some of the other guys talking about Dogecoin, here it is. So Jesse just pulled it up. This Miami Beach home is the most expensive ever to be bought with cryptocurrency. Go back to that, Jesse. Can we share this on the screen? So if you're watching on screen here, we're going to try to share this. But there was a Miami Beach home that was purchased with cryptocurrency, and here we go. We just shared it. So it was 22.5 million Miami Beach penthouse, and let's see here. So how many coins was that?
Okay, so this is probably the one that I was thinking of.
It really is fascinating, like what you guys are talking about. It's one thing to sell it off like a stock, but they're using it as a direct currency.
Yeah, they're actually using like that as the actual bartering for the asset itself, rather than like you just said, rather than just selling it. Oh, it's Miami.
And you can
rather than just
transfer-
selling it and then buying.
Yeah, and you can transfer crypto from one person to another, but if you're going to, bring in the title company, to y'all's point, how is that?
Yeah.
How are the funds handled?
But here's the thing. So it says in this, and I was actually going to make a comment. It says in here, BlackRock CEO Lawrence D. Fink said in 2017 that Bitcoin is an index of money laundering. Bitcoin just shows you how much demand for money laundering there is in the world.
That I did not think about, bro.
Yeah.
You think this is clean money? There's no way. He had to sell it in crypto, so you didn't realize it was all blood money. That's a
Yes.
beautiful home.
It is.
Good
So,
Lord.
so do you feel that we will start seeing more of that here in the next coming years? And do they prepare you in the loan officer? Does the Mortgage Mike of Texas team kind of just start preparing, like, let's Doge all out. Doge it out.
I don't know if you guys know
Actually,
this.
we need to make a video. All right, video tomorrow. You're doging it out. You're going to come in a fucking dojo.
That's what I was gonna,
Well,
man,
we'll
I
have a-
hope
we'll have a
whenever
cut out of
crypto
Cuban.
banks open up, I hope they're called dojos so bad.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's some inherent risk that lies with cryptocurrency. I don't know if anybody has familiarized
Explain this
themselves
to
with
us.
it. Yeah, exactly. So no, I don't see in the immediate future where financial institutions are going to run to go do this. Now,
Really?
I just don't think there's enough protection. There's
Yeah.
too much unknown that you hear with oh gosh, what's the one that's under it was being sued, a lot of regulation issues, but I'll think of it here in a bit.
Ethereum? Litecoin.
No, doesn't matter. I'll find it here in a second. But too much of that is going on. There's too much unknown, and so for financial institutions, for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to back these things, they're going to make sure they're protected because they don't want to lose their ass in this whole ordeal, right? There has to be enough regulation in place where they feel confident enough to never be burned, right? That's the whole thing. That's why guidelines exist, is So there are not foreclosures. So there's not turnover. So they are not eating a bunch of these loans. That
XRP?
they don't. Yes, Ripple. Thank you.
Yep.
It is Ripple.
That's old Nate Dogg
So-
coming in.
Yep.
This is so like I'm outing myself as far as my lack of education on these things. When we say like Fannie and Freddie insure these loans, so if I get foreclosed on, that means that the end investor who bought that loan still gets paid. That's the insurance.
That's what the PMI is for, is to help offset some of that.
So where does Fannie and Freddie come into play? If I default on a loan and my home goes into foreclosure, and you're saying Fannie and Freddie insures the loan, who are they insuring?
Well, they're buying portfolios, right? It's
Oh, okay.
They're born to the
they're
mortgage-backed
insuring
security.
themselves.
Yeah. Well, yes, but they're buying it from from the loan side, the lender, the lender sells it off every
Yes.
month, right?
Yes.
And so Fannie and Freddie have been the largest purchasers of mortgage-backed securities,
it's
not
basically a monopoly.
not private investment groups,
Gotcha.
right? And probably in the 08 downturn, that was a lot. We probably saw a lot of private investment hedge funds buying.
Absolutely.
So what
you
you're
know,
saying is the
MBSs.
one obstacle to get past us being able to buy homes in crypto is just go back to everything before 1973 and don't have Fannie and Freddie Mae and just have everything done privately.
I think we go back to before 2008 because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were just as guilty as anybody in terms of what they allowed happen, right? So they're all about making money. Once they realized that, hey, this was a bad idea and everything crashed and what happened.
But they
happened.
had, so back then they had to, in order to keep real estate moving, they
Sure.
had to be the main buyers. And it turned out during buying that and then the run up, they actually did pretty well. Turned out to become pretty profitable for them. And then they keep threatening. The government always threatens. This is where we start to see, interest rates. And correct me if I'm wrong. Interest rates, even though it's what on the Treasury
10-year, yeah.
10-year, but it's also predicated by the mortgage-backed securities purchases, and the government keeps saying, "Well, we're going to stop buying. We're going to stop buying." When are they going to stop buying?
There's not an exact date, but
They're not, because it's so great.
I think they
So,
are.
Griff,
I mean, they
Hey,
are.
you understand
They've
that
been prepping
that
them.
doesn't provide a utility for anybody else, though. Like, I don't mean to make it all weird and silent.
Yeah,
there.
that's
Like,
that's
you
awkward.
understand
No,
that
I think you need to explain yourself.
Fannie and Freddie buying mortgage-backed securities doesn't provide a utility economically for the consumer
No,
in
it
any way,
doesn't.
shape, or form. And in fact, it was actually people like AI. I mean, geez, we go way down the rabbit hole with synthetic CDOs and all sorts of stuff like that. But it's actually just the advent of the mortgage-backed security in the first place. This crazy Voltron type animal where you throw a whole bunch of mortgages together and decide that you're diversifying risk when really you're just creating an opportunity to, I would say, manipulate risk and kick the can down the road. That didn't provide anything better as far as the daily life of the person who took out the mortgage. So,
But it
We
helped
don't
drive
need-
down rates.
yes, I guess in a sense it could. And what else could drive down rates? Consumer confidence, a million things. right?
Sure, but the government also has been a manipulator of rates since
100%.
the recession.
100%. All I'm
Right.
saying is that the United States existed for 197 years before mortgage-backed securities were ever invented. And we were won a couple of world wars, undefeated in those. We were doing great. Like before.
Three-peat.
USA. No, we're doing
Do you think we could win another one?
do I think we could win another one? Yeah, but it would be the last one, unfortunately.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
so they have the trump card.
yeah,
Ooh.
we're going to have
Poor
to.
choice.
Yeah,
We'd have to find another place to live first
yeah.
for all of us. But I'm just saying, it always makes.
Do you think that's why the billionaires are trying to go to space?
Well, I mean, yeah, 100%. And there's something very human about conquering different worlds. There's also something very lonely about being the first one to do it. So I just don't think, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going anywhere near space.
No.
I don't care how easy it becomes. I don't even like being way out in the ocean.
I struggle to
'cause
get on a plane as is.
I just,
Yeah.
when I'm on a cruise, when we're close, when I can still see land, all about it.
Is it because you're so confident that if something were to happen, you think you could swim there?
No. Well, yeah.
You know how
I know
far
I'd
out
have a
was-
fighting chance.
Yeah.
I know I'd have a fighting chance. I also know we're not supposed to be out there. It took us, at least depending on your theology, hundreds of thousands of years, I would assume, to even be able to build the vessels that allowed us to be out there in the first place. We're not. Jurassic Park will teach us anything everything, but like, if anything, life finds a way.
We'll have Asher on the show next
Life
week.
finds
He's
a
all
way.
things Jurassic Park.
Right? Life finds a way is all I'm
Yeah.
saying. We're not supposed to be out there, not supposed to be out there. We're not supposed to be up there.
Yeah.
Just be happy with where we are. I love it around here.
Yeah.
Like, there's great restaurants. There's a lot to do here on Earth. I don't need to
Have
be
you guys
going
been to the
anywhere
Frisco
else.
Star? I mean,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Imagine if you were like, hey, I know you live in this amazing place. I live at Legacy West. It's beautiful. I love it. I get to walk everywhere. And space would be like, hey, Brian, why don't you drive 6 hours north into the boonies just to say that you're there? Like, why don't you drive to Ardmore, Oklahoma and just be like, I'm here? That's what going to space is.
But what
It's
if
the
they put a
Ardmore,
sports bar up there?
Oklahoma of just higher up.
But you are competitive enough that you do want to be the first. No.
Well, I can't. That, depending on who you believe, I very much believe we've been to space millions of times. Some people would tell you we've never walked on the moon or whatever. That was like fucking 70 years
But
ago.
those were professionals.
60
As an
years
amateur.
ago, my
As
bad.
an amateur.
as an like a dude
Yes.
just built his own.
Just like those people that just went up there. Right.
Not only do I need to get over my fear of space, I need to now concoct my own device to
Yes.
prove that I'm no longer afraid. Talk about facing your
Yeah,
demons.
good
Yeah.
luck with that, pal. Let me know how it goes. I'll keep my feet firmly planted on the ground here.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. What was the Ripple lawsuit?
I don't even know what it was, but it's been going on for a minute now. I don't think there's a resolution to it yet, but Coinbase suspended trading on it a long time ago. I think it was before Christmas.
Aaron Foster, we're changing up the show today, man.
I'm sorry.
Look,
It just is what
we're
it
just
is.
tired of all things real estate.
I just think, okay, so getting back to real estate, somewhat,
There's real estate on the moon.
it is.
Ooh.
They're not making any more down here on Earth.
Moons?
You might as well. Well, not any more moons either, but
they're
land.
Man. There was a new land
We
that was
almost got
created.
back on track.
There was new land created. There was a volcano eruption, and there's a new island that was created like a month ago.
Yeah, oh, that's right. I
See?
saw on the news that volcano's still erupting.
So whose
Isn't
island
that
is that?
scary?
Huh?
Yeah.
Whose island is that?
Does somebody have to go plant a flag?
Is it just first come first serve?
That's how. Hate to say it, but I think that's kind of how the new world was built.
Is it?
And it wasn't necessarily first
But
come
if it
first
was-
serve.
if it was-
Good thing you can swim.
If it was if it was us, do we have to defend it?
Well, yeah, you got to bring weapons. We got to empty out your COVID panic room,
Yeah.
and we got to bring all that stuff to our new island, which,
Yeah.
by the way, is newly built. So the vegetation is going to be very
Yes.
poor. The soil's not going to be farmable. Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Got
going
a
to be.
built-in
We have
moat for
MRE.
protection.
Yeah, you really want the land to season itself for a few millennia, I think, before it's probably ready to go. Am I wrong?
Probably safe to.
I would say
Yeah.
I don't want to live just on new volcanic
But we can't say
rock.
that they're not creating more land, by the way, because
Well,
more
they're-
land is getting
They are not.
They're bringing it up
The volcano.
from the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
The bottom people.
the bottom people.
Yeah. But to your point, to bring it back to real estate.
Why it is interesting to me, and since we're just off on this philosophical tangent, that
Here we go.
the same no, I just think it is. I'm not like huge, like we got to make crypto our primary currency today guy at all. I do think it is interesting that the exact same institutions that have caused financial crises out of their own accord in the past are also the ones that are like, I don't see, I'm the reason that I don't see Bitcoin becoming something that we can exchange for an asset like a house because we can't insure that, like Freddie and Fannie and Freddie, right? When it's like the fact that you insure loans in the first place was a direct contribution to one of the greatest financial crises in human history. And we're all just like, yeah, we can't buy houses in Bitcoin. They're not going to be insured by Fannie and Freddie. That's like such an abusive relationship we have with the U.S. government in some ways. It is bananas to me.
And that's where you do get into the politics of it,
Yeah.
right? People, are people in charge. We'll just leave it at that. They want control. They want to know.
Can't say them by name or you'll disappear.
Well,
Yeah.
it's many more than just one individual person, but anybody and everybody in those types of positions wants control, and they're going to lobby for continued control.
Right.
And until they realize that they can get a piece of the new pie, they're going to exhaust the current pie and make sure that everybody else is eating out of the same pie, so they continue to reap the rewards of that.
That is a very I don't think you realize what an articulate way to put
Yeah.
that actually was.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank
And
you.
to make it very easily
Yeah.
understandable.
It's the White Claw.
yeah, that's true. The powers that be have not found a way to make people buying assets in any other form of currency more profitable for themselves. And
Well, it's
so
not because
that's why we
it's-
downplay
here's the
it.
thing, because it's not regulated, right?
Right.
And so until and we should have had my neighbor on too, because he could explain this a lot better than I can. But the conversation went is until other countries get on board from a regulation standpoint, there's one bank right now up north. I can't remember if it was where it was.
Scotia.
No, where they're running an FDIC for Bitcoin. FDIC, yeah. There's
Oh my
one
God.
bank right now, so they're trying to regulate. Yeah,
That's man. I'm not a big Peter Schiff fan. I'm sorry I interrupted you. You can finish it. I'll come back to this.
well, I want to hear it.
I'm not a huge Peter Schiff fan because I think that he's kind of an asshole. But if you know who that is, he runs Euro Pacific Capital.
I think he lives in Puerto Rico now.
He does live in Puerto Rico now. He touts himself as being one of the people that saw the crash coming, except he shorted the US dollar, which was not the play at all. He didn't make any money in the crash. He absolutely was.
But he didn't lose any money.
He probably didn't lose any money. He wrote a book before the crash called Crash Proof. He wrote a book after the crash called The Real Crash. He's very, very self-righteous, but he does make a lot of solid points. And in his second book, The Real
Wait.
Crash,
So if you didn't lose any money during the crash, but you wrote a book beforehand called Crash Proof, does that still make him crash proof?
I mean, I think it lives up to the thesis. He does tout himself as being like one of the dudes who called it, which is like, when you talk to guys like Michael Burry, who made like $800 million or whatever it is, like those guys actually profited from it. Like that would be like saying it's going to storm outside and then still not bringing an umbrella. You're
Yeah,
like,
your
well, I
money where
fucking
your mouth
told you it
is.
was going to rain.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you're still wet. So I don't
Yes.
even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But he makes a very compelling argument about FDIC and insuring deposits and things like that. It actually stifles competition against banks, and it actually really brings it invites overregulation that only profits, or I should say, only promotes anything good or more wealth building for the banks themselves and the government rather than the consumer. We play it off as a consumer product or a consumer insurance, right? Like if you have $150,000 in FDI insurance for your
Yep.
deposits, that's your it's more safe for the consumer. It's a very compelling argument as to how that is not actually true. It's actually more for the bank, and it's just overregulation in general. But regulation in and of itself normally benefits the regulator, not the regulatee.
Of course.
Right.
Right.
And FDIC insurance is no different. It's interesting that they would build that for crypto, though. It's just you're starting to see patterns.
they're trying to again get everyone to, if they go that way, they can regulate it easier, right? If it becomes a more common, if everybody starts to invest in it or everyone starts to have some, it becomes just a more common asset, right? Right now, it's not. It's just a thing to talk about.
And it's being the first to the moon, right? It's building that niche. It's
Yep.
it's getting your name out there in terms of, hey, we will do this. So here's your one avenue as of now. Let's figure it out. They're going to make a lot of money in the beginning, but once they've kind of mastered that and people see how profitable it might end up being, that's when you start to see these financial institutions say, hey, let's creak that door open a little bit. Let's put a foot through that door and see if this is something that we can entertain moving forward.
And it might bring that back up, Jesse. Are we like talking way out of our asses here? Does the FDIC
That's a high
insure Coinbase accounts up to 2? Am I reading this wrong? I am reading this wrong. What is cryptocurrency is not legal tender, is not backed by the government. Cryptocurrency, blah blah blah. Corporation FDIC. Okay, so what was the part down there about 250,000? Oh, is that just explaining what FDIC insurance is?
And it's only
Oh.
is it only covering cash, or is it only through banks? Only through banks. So
Okay,
they're
so
not
it's-
FDIC insured.
No, they're not. Okay, I thought that was saying that it was insured. Why couldn't they insure it themselves? Why does the government need to insure it?
Coinbase.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it like in Tommy
Why-
Boy? It's
why
only as good as the
couldn't
paper it's
Bank
written
of
on?
America-
Right, is it? You
why
know what I'm
couldn't-
talking about?
Why
The
couldn't
guarantee.
Why couldn't Bank of
I'm gonna
America
stick my head up the butcher's ass.
Tell me. Okay, so why couldn't Bank of America? Okay, let's say there's no FDIC insurance. I'm Bank of America, and I'm advertising that in my savings accounts, I am going to guarantee you a 2% interest rate, which is insane on a savings account.
Yes.
What's the normal savings account like?
Point
Point
something.
Point something, right?
092.
And it's going to be much higher risk. I'm gonna invest your money in emerging markets.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a lot of it in
Bitcoin.
SpaceX. It's
Bitcoin.
going to be a big part of it, right? Like I'm just going to do whatever. I'm going to invest in theme parks and whatever dumb bullshit, right? But to make my rates more competitive, or to make my bank more competitive, I'm going to give you a higher interest rate, or I'm going to provide you with a higher level of deposit insurance through my own self. I'm Bank of America. I have a bajillion dollars on my books. I can provide my own insurance. And then I'm Wells Fargo. I'm only going to give you $1. I'm only going to give you 1% in your savings account, or 0.5, whatever a normal one is, right? But I'm going to show you what I'm investing in. I'm going to provide you with a higher level of deposit insurance.
Yes.
Now I'm making a choice as to which bank I want to deposit my money with. That's how the system should work. We have the FDIC that just says flat across the board. Is it 250 now? It used to be 150. It's 250. I'm living.
But here's it. I don't think they can do that. I don't think you could do that because banks are so heavily regulated, which is the point that you're making. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
So, yes. So, DeBacker, where do you think from, again, let's bring it back to the real estate industry side of it. Where, with technology kind of, taking and disrupting the real estate agent industry, what are you seeing on the lending side from a whole, like from a top-down perspective? What is the threat to a lender like yourself that you have to show, all right, here's our value, this is why you need to work with us, versus, this robot who just gives out loans?
Well, there's a lender that can take you to the moon if you want to go. So, but I digress.
Yes.
So,
but they don't have any appraisers, by the way.
That's true.
No appraiser resort. Never mind. I'm in the industry. I probably shouldn't comment too much on it.
We can.
Yeah,
I'll comment here in a second.
I think that's, I'm saying those things tongue in cheek a little bit here, but that's the reality. Is marketing right now is pushing everything to, we're going to do this as fast as possible, jump on our rocket ship, and we'll get it done.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is that's not mortgage lending. Just like any profession, there are good nurses, bad nurses, good doctors, bad doctors, good real estate agents, bad real estate agents. Same with lenders, right? The majority of loan officers who work in an environment where everything is being provided to them constantly. And I will say again, it seems like the more marketing you see, the lower quality the back end is. That style of lending is taking over our industry. And kudos to them. Right, they've done a hell of a job convincing people that they are a stable, and it's not just the one I'm referencing.
Shows what a strong marketing
it's
message can do.
Absolutely,
It was like Zillow or Open Door and the real estate side.
Absolutely. So it's combating that right now in terms of people believe that we all offer the same thing, and the only thing that's important is price. Price, of course, undoubtedly is important, but just last week we saved 2 deals from one of these types of lenders that could not get an appraisal out there.
Rocket ship lender.
Right. They were already past the closing date and they still did not have the appraisal not only done, but even confirmed by the appraiser that he could get out there by a certain date. And that's a scary thing when you have thousands of dollars out there and earnest money, option money,
just
what have you.
bananas.
But yet we're still convinced that because they have an app, because you see them on TV, and again, there's multiple of them out there, that somehow that's advantageous. But the reality is I can do a pre-qualification in 5 minutes.
So is that something, I'm trying to go back to 2006 and 2007, where we saw, during that time, we saw a lot more buyers willing to go through the approval process with big banks. So Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and they at the time, I think Bank of America at the time was, if not still is, one of the largest lending institutions out there with home loans. Sure. And it took, I don't know how long it took, like let's say 5 to 10 years before finally you rarely see a Bank of America or Wells Fargo or even Chase.
That is crazy. Bank of America was number one for a long time.
Yes. And so are we kind of seeing the same thing? Is it kind of the threat or perceived threat, kind of what we were going through in the 06, 07, in those earlier days, where it was Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo. Now it's the Quickens, the Loan Depots, et cetera, that are these larger lenders who are number one in terms of lending volume or the number of units, but in terms of quality of service, just not there.
Yeah, the thing about the threat, I think the threat is only valid as the market goes. And what I mean by that is if it is a seller's market, right now we're obviously a little bit lower on inventory, so maybe multiple offers on a particular property. You guys are the first line of defense, right? You're saying, hey, I've got 5 offers from reputable local lenders over here. Yes, your money is right on your offer, but you're using XYZ Bank, or you're using Mr. Online Lender, and we can't reach them on the weekends or whatever. We've had bad experiences with them in the past. And you have essentially caused yourself to not be able to win an offer in that type of market. So there's a lot less threat in that situation. Now, the upfront piece of it, yes, we are combating that still drastically, and it's a common thing. Again, all these conversations we're having to have. But once they actually get to we'll call it the bidding table on the house, most of the time the listing agent is kicking it back and saying, hey, we can't accept this offer until you go talk to somebody that's reputable and local.
A real lender.
Conversely, a buyer's market, house has been sitting for 30 days. They're just happy to have any pre-approval letter hit their front door and an offer, hit the table. So that's going to be a bigger threat at that point.
Pre-approvals like from his mom.
Yeah. No, we'll take anything right now. But even back then, I mean, even during the buyer's market, I mean, yes, we dealt with it, but we still explained to the homeowners that, look, this is an offer that's coming with a pre-approval from a Bank of America or whomever, one of the big lending institutions. Here's the downside risk. Here's the risk to it is that, we have a buyer that's willing and able, but it may be a long, drawn out, frustrating experience because it is a large Monday through Friday corporation that doesn't work on weekends. I know. And so, another thought process that we're starting to see, and there's one theory of thought when it comes to the lending institutions, is that we will start to experience in our real estate market home buyers coming as a cash offer, right? Where we see buyers getting fronted cash to go buy the home, and then the lending institution that fronted the cash then will finance into a conventional traditional loan within 10 to 14 days after that. Have you kind of seen or experienced any of that, or do you think there's any headway in that?
I thought it was a brilliant play for those who jumped on that pretty quick. I forget the name of the company, but one of them was kind of the leader in that field, and there was a need for it. That in a situation as I described, if there's 10 to 15 offers and you might only be approved for FHA financing, which is perceived as a weaker type of financing versus the 10 other conventional offers or even potentially a cash offer, you weren't going to win that deal unless you explored an option like this. So I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Now everybody came out of the woodworks and replicated that extremely quick. So oversaturation happened fast. And now even just in a matter of a few months, the need for that is I'm not going to call it non-existent. Depends on where you're buying, but it's definitely not as relevant as it was 6 months ago.
It'll be interesting to see because like in the auto industry, that's essentially what you do, right? You go and if you were smart, like you go to a credit union, you get approved, and they'll say, "Oh, you're approved to back her for $42,000, $42,300," and then you go to the dealership, what you're already approved to. Then you're like, I'm paying cash, and you're writing that check for that. But it's
you're actually financing
it, right? So I do wonder if we see more on that. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves. So look, guys, if this is the first time that you've been a part of this show, go over to our Facebook group, the only real estate group worth listening to. Come join and be a part of it, and as well as go and just chat with Michael DeBacker. I mean, you can go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com. He loves just to have people jump on his calendar and have conversations with him.
Just random conversations, kind of like his podcast.
Yes, like today's podcast. I thought today's podcast was very enlightening.
I liked it a lot.
People are going to look back at this in 30 years and be like, damn, those are some smart dudes.
They called it.
Yeah.
They're going to call us the Peter Schiffs.
We're going to write books. We're going to write books about this.
Yes.
They're going to write books about us.
I'm
Speaking of random conversations, are you jealous that I'm going to Chicago tomorrow?
a little bit.
I'm going to watch the game at Soldier Field on
A
Saturday.
little bit.
What would be even?
Rookie quarterback starting. Not that I know anything about that.
No, that'd be Sunday. I'm watching the Notre Dame game.
Oh,
Notre Dame, Wisconsin,
well,
at Soldier Field on Saturday.
Notre Dame sucks.
That was so rude and hurtful. We invited you on the podcast and everything.
Yeah. hmm
Can't say I disagree some years.
Yeah. So go over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. I don't know where to take that. Leave us a 5-star review on that. And yeah, join us next week. We will be back, I think. Or maybe not.
We'll probably figure it out before showtime next week.
Yeah. Michael, thanks for joining us.
My
Actually, I don't
pleasure.
even like calling you that.
It's weird.
It is.
It's weird to
Even
call
when
him
Crystal
Michael.
calls me that, I don't
Yeah.
know what to do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael.
Weird.
When people are
I feel
like,
like
hey,
I'm
I'm talking to
grounded.
Michael, I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to timeout when somebody says Michael.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
I don't really know how to end this show when Keldrum not
Yeah.
here.
Because
Feels like-
Jesse, how does he
we
do
seem
it?
like a really
Do we
sudden-
awkwardly whistle and look
No,
away?
I think DeBacker just say, Jesse, take us out of here.
Hey, yo, Jesse, take us out of here.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the Only Real Estate Podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the Only Real Estate Group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review, please. Go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.